Hello and welcome to video A04 in this series about autodidactic learning objects. The A series focuses on technical details, and this video, A4, will discuss the use of color and dynamic color in GeoGebra. My name is Jonas Hall, also known as the Mad Mathematician. Right, color. Color is just for show, right? Well, it can be more, and it can be controlled in quite advanced ways. First of all, let's see what I've got on screen so far. I've got something I call the secret number, which is actually defined as a random number between 1 and 10. It's currently 9, but if I press Ctrl R, it will change to any value between 1 and 10. Okay. I then have a number called guess, which is set to 0, and I've connected an input field to that, so that I can easily change the number by typing here. So when I type something here in the graphics field, it updates the number. Okay, so we're going to have a little game here. I'm going to guess the secret number, and if I'm correct, I want something happy to happen. So I will create a text which I can type down here, which says great, and I will then have to go back into it, into the properties of it, to be able to have a little bit more control, because I want to make it big, I want to make it fat, and I want to have some color on it. Now I could just put like green, because green is good, like that, and then there's a thing called, in the properties dialog on the advanced tab, something called villkor att visa objekt, which is condition for visibility in English. And here I can put gissning equals to secret number. Okay, that means that it is only visible when my guess equals the secret number. So it's not visible now, and if I guess at 4, it's not visible, but if I guess at 7, it is visible. Okay, so I could then produce another one called not so good, which is red or something, which only shows up when the guess is different. But I could also do this another way. Let's get rid of that one. I could, let's type here a command called if. In Swedish that is om. If something happens, if my guess, gissning, equals secret number, then I'll have a text called great, and otherwise I'll have a text called not so great. Okay, so this will actually produce a text, and I can call it something like result. And it gives an error message there. And when you get this particular error message, invalid equation, please give a linear or quadratic equation in x and y, it's actually because sometimes you need to say that this is not an equation, this is actually testing if it's equal, and then you have to have two equal signs. So if you have that, it will work fine, and it will produce the text down there at the origin, and I can now get in and say on the text I want it large, I want it fat, but I also want something else. So let's go into the Advanced tab. I don't need the condition to show object now because I've already seen to that I've got the text in either case. But let's make it green if it's correct. So I have a dynamic color. And so here I have to put one of these if statements again. Gissning, sorry, capital letter, gissning equals secret number, and don't forget the double equal sign. Then the green value should be 1, otherwise the green value should be 0. And I can copy that to red and say the opposite, 0, 1, so that if this is correct then red is 0, otherwise it's 1. Blue we can let be at 0. So what's going to happen? That's great, but this is not so great, and the color is dynamic, it changes with the values. Let's take another example of dynamic color. I can hide that one. Let's say we have a couple of numbers down here. Notice how these numbers are shown here, but that's only because I have the auxiliary object button checked. So normally you wouldn't see that, and in fact I've designated the number secret number as an auxiliary object, so that normally you wouldn't see the secret number. So let's try again. You can obviously do this more refined, you can give hints as to whether it's bigger or smaller or anything, but if I press Ctrl R, then 7 is not so great because it's wrong. So what about 6? No. Whoops. I managed to erase that. You can erase these things if you don't go into the object properties and lock the objects. 5, no. 4, no. 3, no. 2, no. Oh, come on, what is it? What about 8? What about 9? What about 10? Yes, it was 10. Difficult to guess. Right, let's go back to this. What am I doing in the spreadsheet? I've put down some numbers and I want to create a series of points with the same x coordinate 1, but with a y coordinate A1. Right, now I can drag this to produce many points at once. That's pretty neat, isn't it? But if I now want to change the color of them, that's going to take a while maybe, especially if I want them differently, so let's just redo that a little bit. Let's change the color of that at first. If I make it a red point, and perhaps I make it larger, then I drag it, then the others will have the same appearance. So always go for the same. Oh, that's interesting. The color was the same, but the sizes weren't the same. So you may want to go into properties and select all of these points at once and just jiggle that for a bit so that they all catch on. That's it. So if it doesn't work at first by setting it and dragging, you can easily select all the objects in the Object Properties dialog. Now we can do more interesting things than that. We can use the dynamic color. So let's say, for instance, that the color is the advanced tab holds the dynamic color, and the red color is the Y value. So for this particular point, B1, it's actually the A1 value. So I'm going to put in A1 and divide that by 10, because the maximum is 1 and the minimum is 0. So you need a value between 0 and 1 for these dynamic colors. And if you want it to shift between green and red, you can put in 1 minus exactly the same, A1 divided by 10. And the blue value can be set at 0. And this also have produced a very green point, but when I drag it, it becomes redder and redder. Again, I have to go in and make sure that the size is actually what I want it to be. There, dynamic color. So that concludes the work on dynamic color. Thank you for listening.